Morning, everyone. So, big welcome to Nikki from Marbles Lost and Found, who's going to chat to us this morning. We're going to keep letting people in as they join us, but it's always good to be respectful of people's time. So, if we can just ask that people put their microphones on mute just while we do the presentation, and then we'll do questions as we always do afterwards. But it would be really nice to just do a quick round of introductions. So I'm Nika Cornell. I'm a project officer for Changing Futures, and I'm the branch lead for the Inclusion and Resilience branch of the Trauma Network. Nikki, do you want to go next?
I'm Nikki Nourish, and I'm the creator and CEO of Marbles Lost and Found, which is a mental health organisation based on lived experience.
Thank you. So ML, I'm not sure what your name is because it's coming up as ML. Do you want to introduce yourself?
That is my name, ML, just the two letters.
Yeah. Okay, great. Sorry, my bad.
That's okay. It's okay. My name is ML and I work at Simply Counselling based in Stoke and Plymouth.
Lovely. Debbie.
Couldn't get my microphone off then. Debbie Darcy from the Be Safe team in Plymouth City Council, working with missing young people.
Thank you. Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Trainer. I'm expert by experience lead for the Devon Mental Health Collaborative, working across the whole Devon system.
And Sarah.
Hi there, I'm Sarah. I am a mental health nurse and I'm based at Charles Cross Police Station in Plymouth.
Lovely. And Tracy.
Hello, I'm Tracy and I'm the Mental Health and Disability Lead Community Builder for Four Greens Community Trust.
Wonderful. Well, you're all very welcome. It's really nice to see some new faces in the room as well. And just to keep in mind, we are recording today because we always have members who like to watch afterwards if they can't attend. But I'm, with no further ado, going to hand over to Nikki, who's just going to give us a brief introduction about the work of Marbles Lost and Found. And obviously, as always, there'll be space for you to ask questions or make connections. That's really what the space is for. Nikki, go ahead.
Okay, so I think the best way to try and explain marbles is many things, a bit like a marble bag. There's many aspects to marbles, but from the background is I'm a 90s kid. We didn't hear about things like mental health, and I wasn't diagnosed until I was 30 years old. So a lot happened in my life. I was sexually abused when I was a teenager. I've had abusive relationships. I've had trauma in my life, which no doubt contributed to me eventually getting bipolar. And when I got diagnosed at 30, I had no idea what bipolar was. I was very lost in the system, which, to be honest, wasn't very helpful. When you're given a diagnosis of bipolar, you're given a label with no awareness. The treatment is quite harsh, very medicated. I had a psychologist. I didn't suit Plymouth Options. I didn't suit talk therapy. So I was really lost. And one night during a really bad crisis, my partner decided to take me somewhere called Headspace, which is a crisis cafe. And I spoke to a gentleman that night, and he was lived experience, and he got through to me like no one else ever had done. And I kind of came out of there thinking, the only way to try and get control over my life again and to feel more human is to figure out exactly what's going on and what is bipolar. So I started researching. I started following people like Ruby Wax and Stephen Fry, watching videos, documentaries. And I started to get a better understanding about what bipolar was and what bipolar was for me. And I had a hypo, a really big hypo, and I had an idea, which was, why don't I create something that has everything in one space, but with more lived experience by those that have actually lived it and breathed it. and I created Marbles, and that was 6 years ago. And it's done extremely well. I've kind of adopted the 3 A's, we call it in Marbles. So it's about awareness, acceptance, and action. These 3 things is what Marbles is based on. It's about learning about how you tick, or what mental health really is. It's about the awareness side of things to get that understanding. And acceptance has been a massive thing for me, and I find it a big thing with those that I work with, within my groups, within my talks, with people that come through to me online, is accepting I have this. Like if you have diabetes or dodgy hip or bad back, this is the way it is, but how can I take that edge off? How can I learn to cope and live with it? So it's about living with it. And then we've got action, which is about doing something about it. And we combine all of these things, especially on the website, with many different sections. So you've got all about awareness, so all about disorders. And it's not just about disorders. It could be things like life funks, stress, death in the family. We've even got, we call it neurospicy, which is neurodiversity. I am dyslexic myself. That is obviously on the spectrum. I never knew that until obviously I learned. I'm learning every day with Marbles. But we have a lot of things about well-being. For me, the system, and I know it gets a lot of bashing, and that's obviously a lot to do with government. What I try and do is try to explain to people what I had to learn. It's like the system is like a stepping stone. The rest of it is really kind of down to you and your support system. So I'm a big believer in having that in-between period of diagnosis, crisis. There's a whole big spectrum of well-being, but we're just not focusing on it. And that's what I do with Marbles. So the well-being side of it can be anything from diet to exercise to aromatherapy to podcasts to blogs, communication tools, just groups, Facebook groups that you can follow. There's so many mechanisms in place to help people, but people just aren't aware of it or are too afraid to face it. And with Marbles, I try and add some humor to mental health and our struggles. I try to think of the individual, and I try to combine that in a website, but I also have been learning myself as I go along. I do my talks. When I first started talks, it was an absolute nightmare with my anxiety. But it's given me a great sense of purpose. And I hope that I'm an example of how something like Marbles can actually help somebody. Not everybody, it's not suitable for everybody. I guess you would say Marbles is definitely in the place where people want to make those changes. And obviously I can't deal with people that are extremely poorly, but I have those policies and procedures in place to make sure that person is referred to the right person that has safeguarding in place. But Marbles is about living your life with a mental health condition and also embracing it. I would never have imagined that I would be doing talks, that I would have created a website, that I have the other plans that are coming out. We've got podcasts that'll be starting the Marble Way. So that's going to be interesting, where lots of other people will be getting involved. I've got a new website being built, so it'll be easier to navigate. So as I grow and people grow with me, Marbles grow. So it's continuously changing. It's being added on every day. It has even things like local services on there, which goes all the way to Liverpool. But I've done talks with universities in America, who Americans are brilliant on mental health because they talk about it. And it's about educate. I had to educate a lot of people that come into my groups and the medical students I have about coming off the textbook, more empathy, more understanding. And sometimes you don't need to give someone a prescription for medication. They may need a prescription for awareness and well-being. And I think it's about looking at mental health differently and stepping away from the old style system and stigma that's so attached to mental health, and embracing it a bit more and just looking at it very, very differently. So I do use my bipolar very, very much. So my ups and my downs are very much channeled into Marbles. So when I was building Marbles, I thought of many things, like if a person can't speak, they've been crying all day, they've got brain fog, texting services, online services. Some people are easier. I'm like it. I don't like to talk. I get very, you can't understand what I'm saying. So I use Shout. I've used online support groups. I've used my friends. I channel that into Marbles, and it goes all around the world. So there's contacts for anyone who logs in for all around the world. There is crisis support on there. I run a group which is very successful. It's been running for over 4 years. We have between 15 and 25 members. Obviously, numbers go up and down as they do in mental health, but my group is very different. We don't sit around talking about how we deal. Of course, we touch on it. I do a check-in. We have guest speakers. We do workshops. We brainstorm every 6 months as to what the group like, what they don't like, what we're struggling in, what would we like help in. And I try to make it proactive. We do affirmation cards at the end to uplift them when they leave. We have lots of snacks, of course, because it's important in Marbles to have cake. And the group has really flourished because it gives them a sense of being involved. It also gives them that awareness and that well-being that a lot of them haven't actually really been taught. They've often just been given a diagnosis, medications, and the standard sources of help out there. And I've also had a lot of therapy myself. I had, especially with my trauma, I had EMDR therapy, which was like a beacon of light for me. It changed a lot in my life. I'm a big believer in mindfulness and CBT and DBT. But what I do for Marbles is I break it down. I make it into easy versions. I have a lot of brain fog. So whenever I do things like therapy, I will blog about it, I will talk about it, and I will get that information out to others on the website, because I believe you may help somebody make that decision to try further therapy if it's coming from somebody who's done it themselves and they can see a change in that person's life. Especially nowadays, so much is on social media, especially the younger generation. They are very influenced by social media. And I think it's very important to be truthful and honest, but whatever you say, you must always give a good example of how it's worked, why it's worked. And sometimes it doesn't work. People need to know the ins and outs, and that's what I've tried to do with Marbles. I try to cover everything I can with my side of mental health, other people's side of mental health. I spent 6 years networking like a monkey because I am lived experience. So I know my boundaries as to what I will and won't do when it comes to dealing with mental health, because I have to protect myself. I'm not a professional. So like I say, I'm very much in the in-between stage. I'm the well-being kind of stage for Marbles. People have got to be in the right place. And yeah, that's basically what Marbles is. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in, and it's really hard sometimes to try and squish it all down. But yeah, that's what Marbles is generally about: the 3 A's: awareness, acceptance, and action, and just getting people to look at it differently and embrace it and live with it.
I think that's so helpful, Nikki. So thank you so much for that explanation. I've also put the link to the website in the chat so people can have a look and engage with that. Any comments, any response from people that want to engage with what Nikki has said? Sarah?
Hi, yeah. I've heard about your service for years, and it sounds like, you know, you're doing a great job, but I'm not quite sure I understand what it is that you do other than the group. There's a website, and you're signposting people, but what else is it that you're providing? Sorry, I wasn't quite clear on that.
I do a lot of collaboration with other organizations. I do a lot with LiveWell as well. So I go in, I do things like I train second year medical students on mental health awareness, and more information about, and helps them study as well with the resources that are on the website. I've worked with nearly most grassroots organisations. I do workshops with them. I do wellbeing days. I've done funded projects with POP, where we bring more groups and more kind of inclusivity with other organisations. So I'm a big networker. I work with a lot with other organisations within Plymouth. I'm working with the Dockyard at the moment, so I'm nominated to charity at the Dockyard, so I'm working with their workers. So we have a wellbeing hub that we're setting up, and obviously it's a lot of men, so it's a new area. So what I do with that is I bring in other organisations to help support and give them things like activities, kayaking, football, social nights, stuff like that. So I work with a lot of other people. So what I can't provide, I will signpost. I will work with others to bring that together. I work with Plymouth Reg, which is Plymouth Recovery and Empowerment Group. They are basically really kind of live well, but it's lived experience with professionals providing workshops. I'm doing one at the moment, which is on domestic abuse. And I'm doing that with First Light and a psychologist, and I'm the lived experience. So I have my fingers in many pots, and I am a big advocate regarding mental health awareness and well-being.
So that sounds like a lot. if I referred somebody to your, have you got a team, or is it just you? I'm presuming you've got a team.
I've got my 2 directors.
Right.
But most of it at the moment I do myself. I am building on a team because it's getting bigger and bigger. But it can be hard to find people that, obviously at the moment I'm scrabbling for funding, which a lot of us are. So we're in a tough situation at the moment. A lot of groups are folding because the government funding this year is even worse than it was last year. I've always made sure that Marbles, I can keep it going with little money. Because I've watched a lot of charities over the years and I can see how they don't last. So I made sure that, because mental health support in general, you have groups that are set up here, 6 months later funding's gone, the group goes. So I never wanted to start something up that I couldn't keep going, because I've needed that constant support as well, and Marbles supports me at the same time. So I need a team, definitely. I am quite frazzled, but yeah, I'm managing, but I do a lot.
Thank you. Just one more thing then. So if I referred somebody that I see to your service, what would be like the first step that they could expect if I signposted them to you? Sorry.
Yeah, normally I just have a chat with them, kind of get an idea as to what's going on mentally and in their life, and then obviously I will have a think about where they would suit. Do I need to refer them to, so if someone came through in crisis, I use Moondogs a lot, who are online crisis support. I use Shout, Samaritans, obviously. So I have that in place. But if it was just someone who's seeking support, I kind of ask them what they're actually looking for. A big question I ask a lot of people is, what do you think is going to help you? And it really makes them think sometimes. Like, I haven't really thought about that. I'm normally just offered stuff, but I've never really asked, I've never really thought about it. And then I'll give options like, are you into groups? Are you looking for therapy? And if it's like therapy, I have a lot of people on Marbles that offer cheaper therapy because waiting lists are so long. I have people that are coming through that might be suitable for Plymouth Options, and I'll explain the procedure to them and how they can self-refer. I use Rethink a lot as well, because you get one-to-one support with them over a period of time. They've often accompanied them to my group as well, so I have quite close relationships. But the main thing is to get a picture of what's going on with that person and to see where they kind of suit. Is it Marbles, or do I need to signpost them to another organisation, another group, or are they under services? And obviously they need to refer to CMHT, they need to refer to their mental health nurse, things like that. So I first of all always get a picture of what's going on.
That's excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Any other comments? I know there've been 2 comments in the chat. So Sarah said it's a fantastic overview. Thank you, Nikki. And also said that asking what do you think will help you is a great question rather than telling people. I think that that's a real strength in your model. Any other feedback or questions that people wanted to share?
I'm just wondering as well, Nikki, if you could maybe come and have a chat to my organisation, because I think,
Anytime.
yeah, okay. If you could just put your email address in the chat, I can catch up with you
Yeah.
another time. Thank you. I don't want to overload you. You sound so busy, but thank you.
No, I have a very good mechanisms in place, because a lot of people will say to me, "Oh, you're so busy, Nikki," blah blah blah. But I rapid cycle, so I go very high and then very low, with a bit of like stability in between. It's taken me years to come off like 12 meds to 5. I think I'm on 5 or 6 now, but I'm not on those mummified ones. So I have quite good control over my medication, which has taken me many years to fight with psychiatry on that one. So I'm quite good with, and then I've learned obviously to put the right mechanisms in place. So I could have 2 meetings, today's meeting, a meeting afterwards, and then I might have a nap for an hour and a half, and then I'll get up and do it. I'm just coming out of a bipolar low over the last 3 days. So today I thought, I've got my meetings, I'll do my washing, and I'll go up the moors later. So I have things in my life in place. I'll be busy for a couple of days, depending if I'm high or low, and then I have a couple of days rest. I practice what I preach. As well. So I'm very aware, and I have a very good support network in place. People know when something's up with me because I go a bit quiet. So yeah, I have mechanisms in place, but yeah, it's done so well. It's time to get a team. So fingers crossed, we'll see on the next chapter.
Good luck.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Nikki, and being transparent about the fact that, I mean, I've used Shout, I've had EMDR, I have talking therapy that I pay for privately because the waiting lists were too long. So like, I think it's really important to be, it's really important to be open about these things and really just share that. And I think that's part of what you're modeling for people, is that you can live a good life. That's the whole point. You're living with something. It's part of your life, but it's not your whole life. It doesn't have to define your whole life. So I think you're exhibiting that. You, as you say, you practice what you preach, but you're also modeling that for all of us, which I think is really fantastic. So thank you for that. Any other comments that people wanted to share? Angie has said in the chat that she would like to catch up with you at some point. She supports young women specifically. I hope it's okay, Nikki. I've added your email in the chat so that people can get in touch with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
No worries. That's what I'm here for. So that way people can come and chat, come and get in contact with you directly. Debbie has also said she may like to invite you to come speak at one of her team meetings. This is my favorite part of this branch, is that you know, even when a meeting looks small, it's never small, because there's always connections being made that are really quality and that then play out. You know, we've just had a response. We had an inclusion and resilience branch a couple of months ago. 2 people were there. They've just incorporated what they saw in the inclusion resilience branch in a report that they've shared with me months later. You know, I thought they'd just gone back to their days, and actually they've really taken on board the learning. So it's really encouraging to see these connections being made.
Yeah, because I mean, we live in such a society of labels nowadays, and so much of my group, and I was like it in the beginning, I thought the only person that can help me is my psychiatrist. I need new medication. That's the only thing that's going to help me. It took me 5 years to realize that's not the case. And I get it a lot with group and people that come through to me is, I can't do that because I got this. No, I can't do that because I got this. And it's about, no, you can. You've got to look at it a different way. And you have to sometimes embrace the quirkiness of what comes with bipolar or ADHD or autism. And what I do is I see beyond that label, and I see the person, and I'm like, well, you're really good at this. Why don't we look further into art groups? You're really creative, you've got a lot of energy, and we channel into that. And I think we need more of that, especially with the younger generation.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. Sarah, did you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Nikki. Really amazing overview. I was aware of Marbles Lost and Found, but just really helpful to hear you explain the kind of the breadth of the work that you do. I've got a couple of practical questions. I suppose is your focus in Plymouth? Just wondered.
No, it's not. I mean,
Okay.
obviously the website covers the UK,
Yeah.
and I have a lot of interest from the States and from Australia and New Zealand. But obviously Plymouth is the kind of own place at the moment I can really network.
Yeah.
So, and you know, we're actually really blessed in Plymouth. We have a really rich resource of grassroots organisations. We have a lot on our doorstep. So I'm really proud of Plymouth for actually the content that we do have for support for people. It is pretty good. It's when you look, especially in Cornwall or further afield, it does get thinner and thinner. And you see a lot of people come and go. We had a big flurry in COVID where people started up a lot of groups, but a lot of them have gone now. So no, I cover across, but it's mainly Plymouth because I live here, really.
Yeah, no, that's good to know. I just wondered if people in the rest of Devon could contact you.
Yes, yeah, anyone can.
Okay.
Yeah, anyone
Okay.
can. I mean, my
That's
dream
great.
would be, you know, going around doing awareness talks and workshops, wellbeing workshops, you know, across the UK, and working with, you know, I'd love to work with, you know, some organisations that have helped me, like Bipolar UK and Shout, and I've worked closely with the Samaritans. You know, I love that because I find it all a learning experience, and I think we need to do more collaboration together, because I think you need a collaboration in order to deal with the crisis that's going on in mental health at the moment, because the system can't cope on its own. It just can't.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, thank you. And my other question was about, you mentioned networking, and you're obviously great at networking and really connected. I just wanted to know if you're aware of or collaborating with the Devon Mental Health Alliance.
Yes.
I thought you would be. I
Yeah.
thought you would be. So, and would that be Tom Cox predominantly, or who your main contacts are there?
Oh, I'm
It doesn't-
really rubbish. I've got a list,
I
got a
didn't want to
black
put you on
book
the
at the
spot.
moment. There's so many names.
Yeah, no, that's fine. No, that's great, because they've got a really good presence in Plymouth as well.
Yeah, and I work very closely with Live Well. They use the website on their website. I'm hoping they might give me some funding. I've applied for funding. So obviously, because we've got the new website coming out, which will be a lot, because I did it all on a budget. I've, you know, financed it myself. And I've got someone who stepped in to help me. He's a web designer, and we've got a lovely new website coming out, because there's a lot of information on there, and I know that, and we need a search button, but everything's taken a bit of time at the moment, but we're getting there.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Nikki. Yeah, I think you're doing an amazing job, really.
Thank you. It's given me a real purpose in life, and I really love doing it, and it really helps me at the same time. But yeah, I love doing marbles. I really do.
Great, thank you.
That's wonderful to hear, Nikki, and thank you so much for making the time to speak with us today. I can see from lots of nods and comments in the chats that you've really connected with people, and I think what you're advocating that is so powerful is that notion of we also need to collaborate on our own mental health, as it were. So you as you said, you draw on multiple things at the same time. It's not just a question of medication alone, although medication can sometimes be necessary and really helpful. It's a question of multiple strands and having your social set up, your social support network set up. It's art groups, it's music, it's whatever you're drawing on. So I think that's so powerful, and I'm just so grateful that you've made the time to talk to us today.
You're welcome. It's been lovely talking to you all. And you've all got my email, so
Lovely.
feel free.
Lovely. So if there's no more comments, we obviously have the space, but people always are excited to get time back in their calendar. So it seems like we're wrapping up early today, which is not a bad thing. But I just want to say thank you once again to all our members for attending, but also particularly to Nikki for sharing today so well and clearly what Marbles are doing. I hear about Marbles all the time. People are constantly telling me what a great resource it is. So it's really encouraging to have you speak today.
Oh, thank you. I like talking about Marbs. And hopefully, you know, if it helps just a couple people, then I've done my job. You know, because no one should
Wonderful.
ever feel alone. And you know, it's a lonely experience, mental health, and you sometimes
Yeah.
you just need someone to shine a bit of light for you to follow through the dark tunnel.
Well, you're definitely doing that. Thanks, Nikki. Thank you everyone for attending today.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.